Greetings! Thank you to everyone for coming out to our group author reading. This reading is brought to you by Strong Women Strange Worlds, which is a group of authors supporting authors. Our mission is to elevate the voices of women and non-binary authors of science fiction, fantasy, and horror through events like our bi-monthly virtual quick read sessions. You can find out more about Strong Women Strange Worlds in the handout that we've provided in the chat and by visiting our website, a link of which will be added to the chat. And that is strongwomenstrangeworlds.weebly.com. I'd also like to take a minute to thank those of you who have made a tip jar donation. Thank you! We appreciate you so much. I'm your host today, Kate, and you can find out more about me in that handout as well. Please note that recording of this session by the audience is not allowed, and recording of electronic communications, including Zoom meetings and webinars without permission, is illegal. Today we'll be featuring 6 authors: Nicole M. Wolverton, Beth Gibbs, Joyce Reynolds-Ward, Jane Buehler, Anne Keck, and Andrea Hairston. Each author will have 8 minutes to read. Our first reader is Nicole M. Wolverton. Nicole M. Wolverton is a fear enthusiast and a Pushcart-nominated writer of 50-plus works of short fiction, creative nonfiction, pop culture essays, as well as 2 novels. She lives in the Philadelphia area, where she earned a master's in horror and storytelling from the University of Pennsylvania. Nicole, take it away.
Thank you very much. And useful to know as we get started is that my favorite review of A Misfortune of Lake Monsters suggests that the novel is as though Hallmark made a horror movie. And in the scene I'm about to read, our protagonist Lemon has discovered a very real and very hungry monster in Lake Lokacoma, where she and her family have been secretly impersonating their town's fake lake monster for generations. Lemon's family refuses to believe that there could be an actual monster, and her grandfather has been trying to gaslight her into believing it was just a bear that she saw. So, 4 a.m. on the dot on Monday morning. Everything in my body aches to shut my eyes and let myself drift off. Everything, that is, except my brain. I swing my legs over the edge of the bed and sit, peering through the dim murk of my room. Everything is cast in grays, like the whole world has been leached of color. I tiptoe to the bedroom window and rest my forehead against the glass. My breath leaves a patchy ring of fog. Even through the haze, the lake is visible just beyond the crest of the hill. My stomach churns. The dim streetlights of Devil's Elbow glow. I can imagine the neat and orderly streets spooling out away from the lake. A sliver of moon shines in the clear night. Beyond town, the vapor from the nuclear plant curls up into the sky like a ghost. The spare waves on the lake reflect white, then sink into inky blackness. A short, sharp scream floats up from the trees. My gut flips and my arms break into goosebumps. I throw open the window. A gust of cool air rushes in, enough to shake some of the fog from my brain. I brace my hands against the sill. Despite the scream, it's almost dead quiet. Too quiet. Another high-pitched shriek shatters the silence. There's someone out there, probably because of me, because of all the rumors about old Lucy, the infamous and, up until now, very fake lake monster of Lake Lokacoma. Every drop of spit in my mouth dries in an instant, and my feet are cement blocks. I should wake Papap, force him to call the sheriff. As if he would really listen to a single thing I say. And really, it's the middle of the night. No one in their right mind is wandering the woods alone. The noise has to be something else. Something normal. Foxes, probably. Before I can talk myself out of it, I throw on a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt, shove a small flashlight into my pocket, and head toward the back door. You know, before I can remind myself of what might be waiting in the dark. Papap's bear deterrent kit sits on the kitchen counter, waiting for me to grow a spine, mocking me. I palm the mace from the kit and lock the door behind me with clammy hands. Outside in the backyard, every rustle of leaves or whistle of the wind off the water is startlingly loud, but I don't dare turn on the flashlight. Not yet. If Pap-Pap or Grammy wake and see the beam, there will be a lecture at the very least. The breeze blows strands of hair into my eyes as I start down the creaking stairs, one step after another. That's all I have to do. By the time I'm at the floating dock, standing in front of the boathouse, my brain feels like nothing more than a chewed-up excuse of taffy and raw fear. Another scream emanates from my right. My legs shake. Look around, I order myself. Look for signs of a bear. You can handle a bear. Stand your ground, make yourself big, use the mace. An unvoiced thought lurks just behind my eyes. Look for signs of the monster. I take a few tentative steps down the trail and glance at the mucky water and pickerel weed only a few feet to my right, at the gentle waves and the shiny surface of the lake. The mace is ready in my hand. I turn on my light. Every shadow is menacing. Every waft of air that curves toward me is a fetid breath. I keep my eyes on the water. The farther I walk, the more my legs shake. I will one day find a way to walk in the woods and be near the lake without feeling like ants are swarming me. This is not that day. The brush rattles ahead of me. My slow walk stalls. I listen intently to the rush of the breeze, the lap of water on the pebbled shore. I listen for the sound of birds or peepers or crickets, but there's nothing. Only more of that whispering hush from the thicket. A low moan stirs the night. It comes again. I hide the beam from the flashlight against my shirt. If there's something really out here with me, maybe I can hide in the dark. I take slow and careful steps away from the water to what I think is the far edge of the trail until long, wispy branches brush over my head. I'm so focused on being noiseless, on listening. It's a shock when my foot slides in mud right at the water's edge. Somehow I'm near flush against one of the weeping willows growing out of the silt. I wince and forget about trying to be stealthy. My light swings wide. One step in the wrong direction and I'll be calves deep in the swampy muck. I lift my foot out of the mud and shuffle sideways, back toward the trail. Everything looks so different in the dark. I could swear I wasn't anywhere near the shoreline. That thing I saw in the water, what if it rushes at me? What if I do find something out here who needs help? Or someone? What if I freeze? What if I can't find my way back to the house at all? The weight of what I'm doing knocks what little bravery I have remaining right out of me. Every bone in my body screeches that I should run. I trip over a root and the beam of my light swings wide again. It illuminates another weeping willow, a stand of tall grass spiked in the water adjacent, a fine mist of fog floating just above the lake. The beam catches something reflective and then it's gone. What is that? I edge back toward the tree again and part the tall grass with the rim of my flashlight. The curved edge of a hiking boot pokes up through the hollows and an ankle. A gray, blue, pale leg that ends in nothing but a jagged, bloody stump of shredded meat gently bobs a few inches away. The flashlight beam drops, and this time, my scream breaks the night. And that's my excerpt. Thank you for letting me read, and thank you for Strong Women, Strange Worlds for letting me read. And if you're near Flemington, New Jersey, please do stop by the Flemington Summer Book Fest on May 25th and pick up your very own copy of A Misfortune of Lake Monsters, or stop by my website, NicoleWolverton.com, to find out more about other upcoming events. And if you sign up for the newsletter there, you get a collection of short stories. Thanks again.
And then you and I have a conversation after this where you tell me what this dead body is and you come to my house and you read it to me at night. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I've gotten from all of that. So
I would never spoil it for you.
Yeah, that's why you're going to come to my house and read it to me, because we all are obsessed with your voice. So thank you. Thank you. I'll send you my address. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to go on. Our second reader is Beth Gibbs. Beth Gibbs is an author who writes about strong women, witches, and spirits who face battles while living outside the norms. Beth lives in Portland, Oregon, with her husband and loves to go on adventures, from local hikes to road trips to walks all over the world. Beth, over to you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. So we're here with Reva, a reluctant witch as she follows a cryptid into the night. The darkness of a forest in the middle of the night was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. I could see dark shapes as I walked slowly, slivers of sky through the canopy, but down on the ground I couldn't see my hand in front of my face when I held it up, trying to keep from walking into obstacles. My knee hit something solid in front of me and I fell forward onto a downed log, the soft moss keeping me from scraping up my hands. I bit back a curse and a whimper as my knee throbbed. A soft glow of green light caught my eye off to the right. Bioluminescent mushrooms on the forest floor. They were in a pattern, specifically around the trail I had been following. The Evernia stag stood in the middle, waiting for me to catch up. "I don't have your night vision," I whispered to him. My voice felt loud, and it was only in breaking the silence that I realized how quiet it was all around me. I imagined all sorts of noises, from frog choruses to occasional hooting owls, would be part of the night forest. But all I could hear was the slight bending of the trees under occasional puffs of wind. Water dripped silently from the moss above onto my shoulders. I flinched when a drop hit my cheek. The Evernia walked ahead of me, never allowing me to get closer than a few feet from it. I couldn't help but feel like he was annoyed by my lack of night walking coordination, but that was probably my imagination. The mushrooms helped, kept me on the path at least. Though I stumbled on tree roots I couldn't see, I was relatively calm though, which was a surprise to me. A branch snapped off to my right and my heart leapt into my throat. Both the stag and I stopped short. We waited, tension thrumming through my limbs, but nothing happened. Another animal, perhaps. I walked on slowly, but the calm I felt was gone. After a few moments of walking, the mushrooms disappeared and the canopy opened up overhead. We had come to a clearing. The Evernia walked around the edge, sticking close to the trees. I tried to follow, but it made a harumphing noise and darted into the bushes. I stood at the edge of the clearing, wondering what to do next. I looked behind me, but the mushrooms had gone dim. I didn't know how I was going to find my way back. A light wind rustled through the trees, reminding me of the lack of layers I was wearing. I shivered and wrapped my arms around myself. Surely the Evernia wouldn't leave me out here for no reason, or worse, crap. Seconds ticked by. How foolish I was. I had followed a deer into the woods in the middle of the night. I wasn't even sure what time it was anymore. I glanced up at the sky, the night clouds swirling overhead. Swirling? I looked up again. The clouds had a strange orange tinge to them and were moving faster than the wind could account for. The longer I watched, the more it seemed like they were moving in a spiral right above the clearing. I walked out a few steps to get a better view. The clouds shifted, changing in color and swirling faster. I kept going until I was in the middle of the clearing. The clouds were a vortex above me now, deepening to a reddish purple. I waited for fear to overcome me, to feel dread or panic. Instead, I felt a calm focus sharpen in my mind. This is what I was here for, the clouds above me in the sky. The ring on my finger brightened and a current of energy crept out of the center and up towards the sky. Instinctively, I raised that hand up so that it was closer. The energy became a jittery red beam of light that shot up to the clouds. They glowed red like a reflection from a traffic light. And then the light vanished and the clouds went dark. The temperature shifted as if I'd walked into a sudden fog, but the air stayed clear. The swirl of clouds overhead slowed. They called to me in a language that wasn't sound or even sight-based. It was a language of touch and temperature. I raised my hand again to the sky, drawn up into a fist. But the shape felt wrong and the clouds withdrew. I unclenched my fist and opened my palm up to the sky, waiting, looking up. A streak of red lightning ran across the sky. Thunder rumbled low and loud above me. I raised up my other hand, palm open. The air shifted again. Fat raindrops began to pour down. I felt like a kid in a sprinkler, the thrill of water beating down all around me. I smiled and laughed out loud. Lightning forked out above me like a branch. The storm responded with a thunderclap. I felt another pull, the electric charge filling the air. My arms were beginning to ache, but rather than drop them, I stretched up further onto my tiptoes. The lightning ran across the sky a third time. It was playing with me. A faint electric current crossed my palm. I closed my hand around it gently and lowered my arms. I felt a tug from the sky, and a flash of bright purple shot down at me. I shrieked and I jumped back, dropping my arms. The lightning dissipated above me, leaving a lingering feeling of disappointment in the air. Or maybe it was in me. I couldn't tell. The rain slowed and petered out. I looked up, an apology forming in the back of my throat. But I didn't know how to apologize to a storm. The clouds began to break up and scatter. I felt bereft at their departure. I wanted to cry to them to come back, but it was too late. I looked down at my damp clothes, my hair clinging to my wet face. Just a foolish witch in a clearing, unable to fulfill her own magic, I thought. A shiver went through me. I was cold and alone, standing in a forest in the middle of the night with no idea how to get back. There was a creeping mist around the tops of the trees, pale against the black of the forest as it swept down. I looked out into the dark around the clearing and saw glowing orange eyes. Horror flooded my core. The orange eyes pulsed in a hazard beacon. They weren't eyes, I realized, with only a little relief. The mushrooms that had glowed green were now orange. I felt a creeping sense of actual eyes watching behind me. I ran towards the mushrooms, hoping they would provide a path to safety. Behind me, a wail rose, familiar, unearthly howl of sorrow and rage. The banshees. A second wail joined in, and then a third. I ran faster, stumbling over rocks but not falling. I had to get away. I ran across the clearing, and on the edge of the forest, I made a mistake of looking back. 3 figures had emerged from the woods behind me and were at the edge of the clearing. In that brief second of terror, I saw their skeletal faces. No eyes, just black holes, and their reaching hands pointed like dead tree branches. A strangled scream escaped my mouth as I tripped over a tree root, going face down into the dirt. I sensed their delight at my fall and felt them rushing towards me. I tried to get up, but their wails drowned out my thoughts, my senses. It was like being stuck in the middle of a room with the stereo turned up on blast, and all I could do was try to cover my ears uselessly. An unbearable heat curled around my finger and rushed up my arm as I clenched my eyes tight. The banshees were coming for me, and nothing I could do would stop them. And that is from Pacific North Witch. If you sign up for my newsletter, you can find out, you can get entered into a drawing for what happens next, and you can get a free copy of it. Thank you, everybody.
That was, it's these cliffhangers. I cannot handle the cliffhangers, but also I will send you my address. You come read that one to me too. We'll get a whole schedule going. It's going to be great.
Bedtime stories. I'm for it.
Yes. Thank you. It's all I need in my life. All right. Our third reader is Joyce Reynolds-Ward. Joyce Reynolds-Ward has been called the best writer I've never heard of by one reviewer. Her work includes themes of high-stakes family and political conflict, digital sentience, personal agency and control, realistic strong women, and, wherever possible, horses, frequently in Pacific Northwest settings. Joyce, whenever you're ready.
Okay, well, now for something entirely different. I'm reading a snippet from Chapter 8, Martiniere Justice, from The Cost of Power, Book 1. Gabriel Martiniere is reuniting with his family after 5 years of exile due to his testimony exposing human rights abuses around the imposition of mind control technology on indentured workers by the family company, the Martiniere Group. That reunion includes rebuilding his relationship with his estranged father, Philip. The viewpoint is from Gabe's fiancée, Ruby, and they're getting ready to eat a nice dinner outside of outside at Ruby's Northeastern Oregon family ranch, the Double R, on a nice summer evening. Philip snapped up a file, flipping copies to Gabe, Justine, and Gerard. Read this, please. I just got my hands on the full document this morning. I didn't want to say anything until I had this version. Silence as they read. Then Gabe snarled, his voice resonating deep within Ruby. What the hell? Is this true, Philip? Gerard sounded shaken. Yes, Uncle Jerry, it's true, Justine snapped. I haven't been able to get my fingers on this document, but I have encountered allusions to it. What? Ruby stared at Gabe. That fight you to the death glower had returned, but it was focused on the document he flipped through once again. Gabe glared at her, his face set and hard. Walter Braun was implicated in the deaths of my family. Damn it, I thought their deaths were accidental, not this. Correct, Philip said. Walter Braun and now his son Frank have been actively scheming to take over the Martiniere group for years. They have been creating their own version of the mind control technology. I've suspected this was the case, but until Justine's discovery and this document, I didn't have confirmation, and I've been manipulated to keep from realizing it. How did you manage to get the document? Justine asked. Philip grimaced. One of my electric-born consorts was broken in order to do it. She was feeding me a Zincter psychotropic that left me open to programming, and yes, Ruby, that may have included mind control nanos that are Zincter, not Martiniere. He rubbed his face, a stress reaction Ruby recognized from Gabe. Nonetheless, as this medication has helped me break free from the influence I've undergone, I've come to see the error of my attitude toward you, Gabriel. I have wronged you in so many ways. Well-intentioned, but I have wronged you. Gabe flinched and looked down. Silence hung heavy around them. The only sound the sizzle of steaks cooking on the grill. Even the wind in the trees had stopped. Gabe got up and turned the steaks, still silent, everyone's eyes on him. He sat down heavily, burying his face in his hands. Ruby ached for him. She rose and slid onto the bench next to Gabe, wrapping her arm around his back in silent support. Gabe exhaled, rubbed his face, and sat up. Thank you, Philip. Years ago, I hoped that someday I would hear those words from you. Imagined how I could throw them into your face, make you hurt as much as I have. Under these circumstances, I'm thinking, my God, how badly have we been manipulated these last few years? Exactly, Gerard said. This is not some casual plan that Walter Braun cooked up. This is a deliberate plan to destroy the Martiniere group and possibly the family as well. But why? Ruby asked. Power, Gabe said. If Zincter gains dominance of the mind control technology, eliminates Martiniere competition, and integrates our tech with theirs, then are there any limits to what they might be able to do? None, Philip said. The family has always had guardrails around the technology, the oaths and rituals we use as part of it, which are included in the indentured's programming. That's not what Zincter intends to do. There is another factor in this war between our families, Gerard said. The family spirits, both ours and the Braun's. Family spirits? What the hell? Ruby thought. Agreed, Gabe said. But it's not just about the Melusine and the Lorelei. It's our technology that has been twisted and perverted. It's up to us to stop it. It's time that Zincter and the Bronze learn what justice looks like when dispensed by the Martiniers, Justine said. Philip bared his teeth. Oh, my children, my children. I scarcely dared to hope that this day would come. My son, my daughter, me, united against our foes. We will make Zincter pay. Ruby shivered, suddenly remembering the ritual that Gabe had chanted with Vygotsky's security last night. Who are the Martiniers? We are the fighters. What do the Martiniers do? We stand and fight. Perhaps she was beginning to understand what that really meant. And that's it for my little contribution that you can, and the omnibus edition will be available as a giveaway. So you get all 3 books. And let me tell you, it's quite a roller coaster ride.
I can tell it is just from that little snippet. I was sitting here as you're reading. I don't know who the Martiniers are. I don't know who anybody is, but I was in it. Just like, what do we do? We fight. I was like, yeah, we do. Yeah, we fight. You're so talented with that. Oh.
Well, there's a reason why I call this family. It's also a multiverse, too. So there's several different ways that this story happens.
Love it. Great. We'll have to check it out. That's why we all have to enter that giveaway. Get that swag. That's what you got to do, guys. All right. Thank you, Joyce. Our 4th reader is Jane Buehler. Jane Buehler says, I write cozy romantasy with everyday people and fairies. They are lighthearted stories with adventure and magic, where protagonists learn to believe in themselves. By portraying positive and diverse relationships with good communication, yes, I believe romance novels can be a fun escape while still contributing to a better society. Yes, girl. Jane, take it away whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, as Kate said, I write cozy romantasy, which is basically like the fantasy version of a cozy mystery. So it's lighthearted, it's not too violent, it doesn't have a lot of trauma, and it's basically just meant to be an escape from the real world. And I am just going to start at the beginning of my story. There's a new village blacksmith, Marianne said with a grin at Jane from the doorway. She'd returned from her errands in the village. Jane's face heated. She shoved her fists extra hard at the dough she was kneading on the wooden table. Why did Marianne have to tease her? Was Marianne teasing her? Maybe not. Maybe Marianne was simply excited about having a new smith in the village. Marianne stepped into the kitchen and unloaded the parcels from her arms onto the table opposite Jane's floury mass of bread dough. Marianne's cheeks glowed as she smiled. She pushed the dark strands of hair off her face, tucking them behind her ear as more strands fell out of her bun. He's just your type, too, she said, and winked. She pinned Jane with her dark eyes and planted her stocky frame beside the table, dark and glowering. So Marianne was teasing her for being pathetic and chasing after every new man who came to Wood's Rest. Marianne didn't mean anything by the teasing. She just didn't realize how her words stung. The chairmaker wasn't glowering, Jane said, punching the dough. He was friendly, and his hair was sandy-colored. The apprentice chairmaker had arrived last summer. She'd found any excuse to pass by his shop, slowing her steps and peeking in the windows to catch his eye. She'd wasted 3 moons swooning over him before Marianne convinced her to be more direct. But when she invited him to go on a walk, he mumbled excuses like a flustered drunkard and left town the next day. True, Marianne conceded, but he was, he had a mysterious air about him. He didn't talk much. He was a good listener, and he certainly brought us enough mending work. The man wore out socks faster than a soldier on the march. Sometimes Jane had returned the socks to him one pair at a time. Well, Marianne went on, you can't argue that Wells's apprentice wasn't dark and glowering. That one had more glower than the forest at midnight. She meant the tinsmith's apprentice. He'd arrived last winter, shortly after the chairmaker left. Marianne was right. He'd had an unbelievable scowl, fierce eyebrows, and dark hair down his back. Any rational person would have steered clear, but he'd had a scar across his cheek that fascinated Jane. It made her want to run her fingers along it, or her tongue. Whenever she passed him in the village, he glared at her, and she found herself hurrying home and sneaking upstairs to shut herself in the linen closet, away from all her housemates, so she could continue her fantasy in private. I still can't believe you asked that one out, Marianne continued. I was terrified of him. I was too, but she'd seen him through the window one day, pulverizing a piece of tin laid across an anvil. She'd been staring, her lips parted, as each strike of the hammer jolted inside her. When he'd glanced up, staring back, she'd been so sure the flash of heat and longing that shot through her couldn't be one-sided that she'd gone into the shop and walked right up to him. He'd been alone, holding the crumpled bottle of a candle holder against the anvil with a pair of tongs and gripping the hammer in his tight fist. She'd stood in front of him and gazed up into his eyes, brown, and seen some sort of helpless longing. Come for a walk, she'd said. He'd blinked, and his eyes had hardened, then shifted to disinterest as he stared down at her. Absolutely not. He dropped the mangled tin onto the nearby table and stalked out the back door, still clutching the hammer. She'd never seen him again. Helpless longing indeed. She was a fool. She imagined what she wanted to see and couldn't tell her imaginings from reality. Anyway, he's gone now, Jane said. She paused her kneading and looked up. And I don't have a type. Marianne said, tilting her head. The ones you notice might appear different, but they've all got something in common. What? Jane asked, curiosity getting the better of her. Marianne grinned again. They're all good with their hands. Stop! Jane couldn't help smiling back. Marianne made a crude motion with her hand in front of her hips and jiggled her body, laughing. And they have big tools and like to hammer things. You're one to talk, Jane said, shaking her head, the way you and Wells go at it. Wells can wield his hammer, that's for sure. Marianne stopped her suggestive movements and reached over the table. She pinched off a handful of Jane's dough and rolled it in her fingers. Why do they all leave then? Jane asked, her voice small. It's like the mere thought of me being interested in them is so horrible it drives them away. Those men who rejected her hadn't even known about her other issues. Marianne lowered her hand with the dough. Jane, it's not you. Wells said that last apprentice was a disaster. He couldn't even make a tin cup without bashing it all to pieces. He had no finesse at all. But he didn't give up trying to do the work until I propositioned him. Marianne's eyebrows shot up. You propositioned him? What exactly did you say? I thought you asked him to go on a walk. Jane shrugged before pushing her hands back into the dough, pounding it harder. Maybe he thought I planned to tumble him in the fields outside the village. Maybe she had planned to. Marianne laughed. He did save Elle that time she fell in the mill pond, so we'll always be grateful to him for that. She stretched the dough with her fingers into a thin sheet. That dough is done, she said, holding up the evidence. Jane's hand slowed. Marianne mushed the test dough back into the mass on the table and scooped it away from Jane. As she turned for a bowl, she jerked her chin toward the door. We've been needing a few more door hooks now that the children are getting bigger. Maybe you could run over to the smithy and ask for some. She peeked over her shoulder and lifted her eyebrows innocently. Jane shook her head slowly and sighed. She was curious, dark and glowering. She didn't want it to be her type, but those were the type of men she was attracted to. That had been her type from the first man she'd ever been with through the most awful, Cedric, the fairy, the one who'd betrayed her and broken her heart, and worse. Fine, she said, rubbing the dough bits off her hands. She took off her apron. I'll stop there, and I'll just add I am giving away one of my books. The Fire Apprentice is 5th in a series, but each novel features a different couple and can be read on its own. My books do have steamy love scenes, But I tend to write characters who get to know each other a bit first before they get to the steamy bits. And in this book, Jane has pelvic floor issues, which is something that I really wanted to see represented in romance novels, and so I decided to include that here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was so great. I loved all the cute little characters. You get to come to my house after we've gone through like the dead body and the severed legs and all of that. I'll put you on the list. It'll be great. It'll be a nice palate cleanser. All right, perfect. Thank you. Our fifth reader today is Anne Keck. Anne Keck traded her lawyer's hat for a writer's pen and now writes science fiction and fantasy. Her short stories appear in multiple anthologies, and she's immersed in completing her first novel set in a dystopian near-future world. When not writing, Anne swims and paddles in the crystalline waters around Maui. Anne, take it away.
Thank you very much, Kate. This story is set in the Virginia hills at the turn of the century, so forgive me if I botch the accent, but this is how I heard it in my head as I was writing it. The police said his death was an accident caused by a busted gas line, but that ain't true. I should know, because I'm the one who did it. I tell you, I killed him, and I'd do it again given half a chance. Grant Cleveland's obituary was a bunch of horse shit. Said he was an upstanding and righteous man, loved and mourned by all. Fact is, he was the company man who ran the town and everyone in it with an iron fist. Everyone loathed him. Grant Cleveland made for damn sure nothing grew in that town that weren't as black as the coal they pull from the ground, as vile as his soul. Me and my husband Earl weren't under his fist when he died, no siree. Years ago, I told Earl if we didn't leave, if he didn't swallow his pride and join my mama's family on the homestead, I was going to abandon him and he was going to die the ugly black lung death all alone. He saw reason, which is why he's still by my side today. I can't say life at the homestead was easy, 'cause it weren't. But we did all right. Built us a nice house, had a green garden, good cow and a couple of goats, some chickens. Weren't much. Turned out not enough to keep my youngest, my Tommy, away from that foul town. He runned away when he was only 15, too young for sense. Too young to leave home looking to impress that pretty girl who turned his head. Too young to go into that hellhole of a town looking for work. Tommy weren't smart, but he knew what power looked like, that it looked and smelled like money. So he run right into Grant Cleveland. Turns out Grant Cleveland was not at all happy about me and Earl leaving, and he held a grudge. Earl was a good worker, a born leader who had a knack of preventing accidents in the mines before they happened. For my part, I worked with the women folk, helped them pick the right kind of herbs in the woods, mix the good brews, bird their babies, and bury their dead. Everyone knew I had the gift, and I gave of it freely. What's my gift? Well, I'm a caster, what you'd call a witch, one who does good, helps others. Me and all the women on my mama's side of the family, we're all casters. Each of us is born with a different type of gift that makes us real good at something. Mama said I was born under the fire planet, so fire just comes naturally to me. I'm good at anything that needs to be boiled, smoked, scalded, or burned. When we lived in town, most everyone came by my hearth to seek my counsel, ask for my help. As I heard tell, after Earl and I left that sorry-ass town, life there got even worse, and Grant Cleveland blamed us. Course, Tommy didn't know about any of that the day he walked into Grant Cleveland's office asking for work. Grant Cleveland knew who he was the moment he saw him, 'cause Tommy's the spittin' image of Earl, with his broad shoulders, square jaw, and blue sky eyes. Grant Cleveland hired Tommy on the spot and sent him down the shaft the very next day. Worked him solid for 3 weeks, dual shifts, no breaks. Worked him so much that when the time came, Tommy just didn't have it in him to fight. The fight had been plumb worked out of him. Tommy didn't see it coming, then couldn't stop it from happening. See, Grant Cleveland was a bully with power, a master of violence. If he turned his eye on you, it didn't matter if you were a man or a woman, young or old. He took what he wanted through sheer force, without asking and without remorse. No honey-coated words can describe what Grant Cleveland did to Tommy. He kept Tommy starved and imprisoned and used him. But heaven bless Maybelle Drake, Grant Cleveland's housekeeper. She couldn't ignore what was happening, and her conscience couldn't let it go on any longer without saying something. I'd helped her out a time or two, so I figured she thought she owed me. She asked for leave to see her family, then came to my house first, dragging her tale of nightmares along with her carpet bag. Maybelle said Tommy was held in the jail during the day and then taken up to the big house at night. But Grant Cleveland had just left to visit his cronies in Richmond, so Tommy was now spending all his time in jail. When Maybelle left, I let myself get angry. A hungry beast made of flames and fury grew behind my ribs and quickly spread out, running through my veins. I couldn't have stopped it if I wanted, and I didn't want to. I could feel the rage engulfing me, changing me, making my blood boil and my aura turn a burning orange with wrath. Fire came quick to my hands, almost setting my own house alight. I needed to focus, to get control, so I concentrated on the most important task, getting Tommy out of there. The sheriff happens to be my cousin Garrett, so I paid him a visit. Tommy's was a hard story for me to tell him, but after hearing it, he got Tommy out of that jail and into my arms faster than a hawk can snatch a mouse. Tommy wasn't Grant Cleveland's first victim, but I was damned if I wasn't going to make sure Tommy was his last. I didn't know whether I could do anything to him while he was in Richmond, as long-distance casting is tricky. But the flames licking my innards wouldn't let me wait any longer to at least give it a try. Maybelle had given me the address where Grant Cleveland was staying, so I decided to track him down that night. At midnight, I slipped out of bed, grabbed my things, and headed out to the creek behind our house. There's a flat rock with a bend in it, perfect for sitting on and casting spells. Plus, I always aim to be near water when I cast, just in case I have to put out a fire in a hurry. I sat down on the rock, placed a small piece of wood in the clay firebowl I put in front of me. After gazing up into the clear, star-filled sky to calm my breathing, I was ready to begin. And that's where we end. You can get a free and complete copy of this story, Hope You Like Fire, by signing up on my website at annkeck.com. And for the giveaway today, I'm giving away all 5 of my published short stories in a PDF version to the lucky winner. Thank you so much for listening, everybody.
That was so good. It was very, like 2000s Dixie chick. Like I did have Earl Had to Die, Goodbye Earl, like playing in the background. About halfway through, it was Grant Had to Die, Goodbye Grant. It's very good. It's very
Good. I'm glad you liked it.
toasty. Perfect. Thank you. All right, our final reader today is Andrea Hairston. Andrea Hairston ran away from the physics lab to the theater as a young thing. Her novels include Archangels of Funk, Will Do Magic for Small Change, which is a New York Times editor's pick, a finalist for the Mythopoetic, Lambda and Otherwise Awards, Redwood and Wildfire, an Otherwise winner, Master of Poisons on Kirkus Review's Best Science Fiction and Fantasy. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to be reading from Archangels of Funk, and I'm going to read the second chapter. Cinnamon Jones is a scientist, artiste, and hoodoo conjurer. She's living in the Massachusetts of my mind after the water wars. Violence and despair are on the uptick, but Cinnamon and her cyber dogs and circus bots refuse to give up on the future. So this is chapter 2, Spook the Scout. 5 a.m. The bedside clock glowed through the fine metal mesh on the farmhouse window. Spook paused for a couple good breaths and a lick of dust and mist. The gunshots earlier were from the hill towns, a real fireworks display several miles from Cinnamon's farm. Spook also smelled burnt plastic down on the bike path in the valley near the big river. Distant danger he'd keep a nose on. He pissed against the back porch foundation to mark his territory and warn off intruders. Now, Bruja pissed on the foundation too, but everyone else steered clear. Oh, except for the skunk. And she lived in a hole behind the sugar shack and mostly minded her own business, and who wanted to mess in that? Spook was a gray and white husky with cyber violet eyes, 60 pounds heavier than Bruja, yet even-tempered. Unlike Bruja, he could rein himself in. He could pause before ripping somebody's throat. Spook gave folks a chance to reconsider. 10 seconds staring in otherworldly violet eyes and reflecting on the meaning of life and death was usually enough. Whatever stupidness bad boys had been doing was never worth dying for. They'd scramble away from sharp fangs, grateful for each breath they gasped. Black bears also kept their distance from Spook, or if startled, they took to a tree. Now, sometimes under a full moon, coyotes tried to intimidate him. They yapped and snarled, but they smelled recent wolf ancestors on him and chased after foxes instead, or took down a foolish raccoon who'd strayed into cornfields. Desperado whack jobs, Cinnamon nicknamed Nostalgia Militias, were a different story. Random dudes with a violent agenda, like the two fellows Spook caught wind of now. They'd shot their guns recently and smelled of explosive chems. Out on a shooting spree in the hill towns? Well, they were on the Co-op Road heading toward Electric Paradise, the edge of Spook's territory. They paused to smoke tobacco. Cinnamon's flying horsebot had them in view. Now, Spook could trail them without giving himself away if need be. No reckless confrontations. The Boneyard Baron, or Captain George, the head of Valley Security, handled the occasional shooters and firebugs. Spook was the perfect seeing eye and nose dog for the Boneyard Baron. After many, many summers, Spook should have been too old for guard duty or scouting the land around Cinnamon's farm, but the Boneyard Baron kept him frisky and fit with shots, potions, and operations. Spook never suffered from achy joints or tired muscles, and he had more energy than ever this spring. He was like a puppy with a good sense now and a mission. A warm body dashed from one hole to another. A mouse, thinking she was invisible in the dark and downwind, no scent trail giving her away. But Spook still tracked her. His cyber violet eyes were implants. The Baron's work. So much of the world had come back on view after the cataracts had been removed. There were many colors Spook had never noticed before. And the implants, they gave him a headache at first, a real kick in the snout. But Cinnamon tucked him in a soft sweetgrass basket, a sea island treasure. She put cool rags on his head and fed him from her hands, and Bruja licked his face and snuggled close. Both dogs fit in the sweetgrass basket that was usually their winter nest. Cinnamon sang soothing music and reminded Spook of ancestors on a hilltop howling joy. After a few months, the headaches had faded and Spook got used to more sights and night vision. Hot bodies glowed in cool air, and he barely remembered not knowing so much light. Now, people claimed the Baron saw what the cyber dog saw and smelled scents he tracked. And although Spook starred in many a wild tale along with Bruja, the witch dog, he never thought about that on his rounds by Cinnamon's farmhouse or anywhere. This morning, Spook's nose was better than ever. Maybe the Baron had enhanced that as well as his eyes, sorting through fascinating odors, mapping the comings and goings in his territory. I mean, that was thrilling. He woke up eager to go. The moon remained bright as the sun scattered darkness and a storm wind carried scents his way. Some Hilltown folks strayed suspiciously close to the bike path and co-op farmland. Spook smelled them up here on the ridge. They were Hilltown residents he didn't recognize. Or maybe folks passing through the valley who'd collected aromas from many different places on their clothes, on their breath. Travelers or a rough crew plotting an ambush. 3 or 4 people had been sleeping in mud, and they were hungry and antsy, burping up acid stomachs. One woman had eaten a piece of fry bread. Spook loved fry bread covered in cheese and salty bacon. Well, Spook couldn't follow every suspicious body. I mean, relying on ancient wolf sense, he decided to follow the 2 characters carrying hot guns near Route 10, see what they were up to. Make sure they didn't get in more trouble. Now, anybody might go from a good person doing people things, digging in the dirt, banging at cars or wrecked buildings, plucking strings or shaking rattles, and turn into a desperado, stealing anything, beating up people and trees, and even shooting off guns. Desperados were lost rogues with no territory to mark, no home ground to piss on. These last years, the Boneyard Baron and everyone in the valley counted on Spook to track desperados, wayward youth, and the supposedly upstanding citizens who did a side hustle in a nostalgia militia. Neo-Vikings, True Blues, Happy Saxons, or whatever the heck they call themselves. These 2 were done smoking and on the move. Flying Horsebot was moving with them. He had a raffia mane, sweetgrass tail, and night eyes as good as Spook's, maybe better for some things. Spook licked his chops, and Horsebot was sending out SOS chems to alert him and Bruja. Was the bot in danger, or simply warning everybody about the desperados? Excited by a target to track, Spook woofed and wagged his tail at Cinnamon and Bruja, who were waking up in the farmhouse. Bruja woofed a catch-you-later reply as Spook headed out to trail the men with guns.
That was so good. I loved the rhythm and the vibe of it all. If you don't read the audiobook version of this, you need to get on it, because that was
good. Yes.
It was fabulous.
Yes. It's a book of, I'm very much influenced by music and theater. So the prose should sound like a song.
It does. You did so well. Great job. Yay.
And if you fill out that form, you will get a free copy, hardback, of the book.
That form, you say?
The form that you've been encouraging people to fill out.
The form that I just put in the chat again? Goodness,
Yes.
This was all unplanned, everyone, by the way. That's just...
No, I didn't. Yeah, right.
All right, well, thank you so much. All right, and thank you so much to everyone who came today.